Take a second and just look in your closet right now. You know those really comfortable, kind of baggy cotton gym shirts you've had for maybe
5 years.
years?
Yeah, or those worn-out sweatpants you just completely refuse to throw away.
Right, exactly. Well, they might actually be making you more sore and like actively holding back your workout.
Which is wild to think about, but the data really backs it up.
It really does. I
Yeah.
mean, it is May 24, 2026. And if you look around right now, whether you're walking through an airport terminal, running to the grocery store, or actually standing in a gym, you're looking at just a sea of sleek, fitted, seamless athletic wear.
It's everywhere. It is completely taken over.
Totally taken over. And today we are pulling from a really comprehensive document titled Seamless Comfort, Why You Should Switch to Compression Gear for Everyday Fitness,
Right.
alongside this massive wave of trending 2026 social media and video content.
There's so much content on this right now.
So much. So our mission for this deep dive is to separate the underlying physiological science of muscle recovery from the, very visible fashion trend of athleisure.
Right, because we need to figure out if upgrading your fitness wardrobe is actually a biological imperative, or if we're all just buying into a very effective aesthetic.
Exactly.
It's so easy to write off a widespread clothing trend as pure aesthetics,
Yeah.
especially when it dominates the cultural visual landscape the way seamless activewear does right now.
Oh, for sure. It looks great, so you assume it's just fashion.
Exactly. But the compiled sources suggest we are looking at a behavioral shift that's actually driven by biomechanics. People are adopting this gear en masse because of the functional foundation it provides.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand why this specific gear is everywhere, we really have to look at the literal mechanics of what it's doing to the human body.
Right, the internal science of it.
Yeah, and the source documents lean really heavily into the science of, well, the squeeze.
hmm
They define compression gear as specially engineered clothing that applies calculated pressure to muscles and joints.
Yes, very specific calculated pressure.
Yeah. But the primary claim here is improved blood circulation. And I need you to explain the actual mechanism there. Like, how does a tight shirt change how my blood pumps?
Well, it comes down to hemodynamics,
Yeah.
specifically venous return.
Okay, venous return. What does that look like in practice?
So when you're exercising, your heart is pumping all this oxygen-rich blood out to your extremities to fuel your working muscles.
Right, getting the fuel to the engine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But getting that deoxygenated blood back up to the heart, fighting against gravity, is a massive challenge for the body.
Oh, because it has to literally go uphill.
Yes. So the calculated pressure from compression garments gently narrows the diameter of the veins in those extremities. Think about when you narrow a pipe, the fluid inside moves faster.
Wait, so you're basically turning a sluggish river into like a high-pressure hose to force the blood back to the lungs and heart.
That is precisely what's happening.
Wow, okay.
And that increased velocity means deoxygenated blood is cleared out way faster, which in turn means fresh, oxygenated blood can be delivered back to the working muscle fibers at a much higher rate.
And oxygen is basically everything, right?
It's the critical component for cellular respiration, yeah. When you maintain a higher rate of oxygen delivery, you actually delay the onset of lactic acid buildup.
So you don't get that burning sensation as quickly.
Right. The practical result is that during steady-state cardio or heavy strength training or, a high-intensity interval session, the biological engine simply runs smoother for longer. Your endurance ceiling is artificially lifted by the mechanics of the garment.
Okay, but wait. I'm looking at these recovery claims, and I'll be honest, they sound a bit like marketing hype to me.
I get that. A lot of people feel that way initially.
Yeah, because the sources are stating that compression gear actively minimizes muscle soreness after the workout is over. And I think a lot of people are going to wonder if this gentle pressure is actually doing anything structural or if it just feels like, a reassuring, tight hug.
It's definitely more than a hug.
Well, let me throw an analogy at you. Think of muscle vibration, like driving a car on a bumpy road without shock absorbers.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. It wears the car down fast. Everything is just rattling around. Is this gear literally acting as the body's suspension system?
That shock absorber analogy is incredibly accurate to the biomechanics at play here, because what we're really talking about is muscle oscillation.
Oscillation meaning the actual vibration of the muscle.
Exactly. Every single time your foot strikes the pavement during a run, or every time you catch a really heavy barbell, that physical impact sends a shock wave right through the tissue.
The muscle literally vibrates on the bone.
It does. And that repetitive oscillation contributes significantly to microtrauma within the muscle fibers.
And that microtrauma is what triggers the inflammatory response. That's the deep, aching stiffness you feel like 24 to 48 hours after a tough session.
Precisely. Which is why dampening that vibration is so critical. By wrapping the muscle in a compressive structural layer, you are effectively strapping the tissue down.
Like tying down cargo in the back of a truck.
Exactly like that. You reduce the amplitude of that muscle oscillation. Less vibration equals less microtrauma.
And less microtrauma equals a blunted inflammatory response.
You got it. The recovery benefit isn't magic, it is just simple mechanical dampening. And then the blood flow benefits we just discussed compound this by flushing out the metabolic byproducts of that exercise.
So the net result is that you aren't completely sidelined and limping for 3 days after a heavy leg day.
Right, it gets you back to training consistently.
Okay, so if this tight squeeze is basically a biological cheat code for performance and recovery, why did it take until 2026 to become the default uniform of the planet?
Well, that comes down to the fabric technology.
Yeah, because historically, tight gym clothes were miserably uncomfortable. I mean, people have been wearing spandex for decades. We have to look at the fabric itself to understand why this current generation of gear is different.
We do. And the sources point directly to what they call a seamless revolution.
Right, moving away from all those terrible seams.
Exactly. The evolution from traditional activewear to modern performance wear is entirely about eliminating friction. Traditional compression gear relied heavily on multiple fabric panels stitched together.
Which means seams, lots of seams.
Yes. And when you combine rough, raised seams with repetitive, explosive movements and, of course, sweat,
Oh man, those seams act like a cheese grater on the skin.
it's awful. You end up with severe chafing and skin degradation. But the transition to seamless construction utilizes these advanced circular knitting machines.
Circular knitting, how does that work?
They weave the garment as a single, continuous tube, entirely eliminating the need for those bulky, raised seams.
Wow. And the documents describe it as this second skin feel that allows for completely unrestricted movement, which I can see being critical for something like yoga or Pilates, where you're moving through extreme ranges of motion.
Absolutely essential for those modalities.
But the tech specs go way beyond just removing the stitching, don't they? They heavily emphasize moisture-wicking technology and thermal regulation.
Because moisture management is arguably the most important variable in fabric comfort. Older synthetic fabrics acted essentially as a plastic bag.
Just trapping all the sweat and heat against your body. Gross.
Exactly. Or, if they were cotton, they acted like a sponge, absorbing the water and becoming super heavy and cold.
Mm.
But modern moisture-wicking technology relies on capillary action.
Okay, break down capillary action for me.
So, the synthetic fibers are engineered to be hydrophobic on the inside, meaning they actively repel water away from your skin.
Oh, okay.
But they are hydrophilic on the outside, pulling that moisture to the surface of the garment.
So it pulls the sweat away from your body and pushes it to the outside air.
Right, where the increased surface area allows it to evaporate rapidly.
So what does this all mean? Like, let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
If I'm just doing a casual 30-minute dumbbell workout in my garage, is this highly engineered, moisture-wicking second skin tech actually doing anything for me? Or is this just an excuse to sell premium-priced athleisure to casual gym goers?
It's a fair question, but it actually fundamentally alters your cognitive load.
My cognitive load, how so?
When you are lifting weights, even for just 30 minutes, your mental focus should be entirely on proprioception.
Proprioception, meaning your body's awareness of its position in space.
Yes. You need to focus on your breathing, your bracing, your mechanical form. Every single time you have to tug at a restrictive waistband or adjust a seam that's biting into your shoulder.
Or peel a heavy, sweat-soaked car shirt off your chest.
Exactly. Every time you do that, you are pulling cognitive bandwidth away from the actual movement.
Oh, I see. You're wasting mental energy on being uncomfortable.
Right. So the seamless second skin tech removes a massive barrier to entry. You don't have to fight your clothes.
So you're simply eliminating external distractions, which benefits a beginner trying to nail a squat form just as much as it benefits a professional athlete.
Exactly. It's about pure focus.
That shift from viewing clothes as just a passive covering to an active participant in the workout is fascinating. But, that raises a massive logistical issue.
Which is?
Well, we know the fabric works, and we know the compression alters blood flow. But we can't just slap tight fabric everywhere and call it a day, right? The biomechanics of a marathon runner are completely different from someone doing heavy powerlifting.
Oh, 100%. The application has to match the specific physical demands, otherwise you're engineering a solution for the wrong problem.
So how do you ensure you are applying the right compression to the right kinetic chain?
Let's look at running versus weightlifting. Running involves massive, repetitive impact forces that are entirely focused on the lower extremities.
Right, it's all legs.
So the primary issues there are calf muscle oscillation and the pooling of blood in the lower legs due to gravity and sustained effort.
Which is why the source material heavily advocates for compression leggings, and specifically compression socks, for runners. You're targeting the exact areas experiencing the most trauma and needing the most venous return assistance.
Right, but if we pivot to heavy weightlifting, full leg compression might actually be counterproductive for some lifters
Really? Why is that?
because a deep squat requires absolute unimpeded joint mobility at the hip and knee. Weightlifters benefit far more from core and upper body stability.
Ah, okay. So that's why the sources recommend compression shorts for hip alignment and proprioceptive feedback, and fitted compression shirts to support the shoulder girdle during heavy presses.
Exactly. The tactile feedback of the tight shirt actually helps the lifter maintain tension in their upper back.
And then you have cycling, which the sources pair with compression sleeves and fitted tops, which totally makes sense from an aerodynamic standpoint, but also for temperature regulation in the wind.
Yeah, it's highly specific to the sport.
The common thread here really seems to be intentionality, but the text repeatedly brings up this concept of the Goldilocks fit.
Yes, the Goldilocks fit is crucial.
It says the gear must be snug, but not overly tight. I have to wonder how the average person actually calibrates this. Like, what is the anatomical line between supportive compression and I am actively